It's past 8. Well, it's a long-running debate discussed by families around the country, and it usually comes down to a matter of personal choice. But there's now concern that circumcising your son could land you in legal trouble. And here to explain is Warwick Marshall from the Tasmanian Law Institute and Dr. Penny Adams. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning, Lisa.
Warwick,
Good morning, Lisa.
If I can start with you, your research paper has concluded that circumcision could be illegal. I'm wondering how you reached that conclusion.
Yeah, well, essentially, we reviewed the law and its application of circumcision. And the problem is that there's no law which directly relates to circumcision in existence. So we applied the general law, and the concern is that the general law was framed without circumcision in mind.
What about just the law of being a parent and having the right to choose that your newborn son, you know, for a long time this was considered a health issue. Does the law really need to step in at a point like that?
I guess the major concern, my major concern, and the Tasmanian Law Reform Institute's major concern is that doctors need to know if they're protected legally. So rather than it being an issue of parents being protected, we're very concerned that circumcisers, doctors, traditional circumcisers know their legal rights.
And the suggestion in the paper is that this could fall under assault or wounding.
Yeah. Well, one of the concerns is that without a particular law that addresses male circumcision, the general criminal law applies. So although we hear the term assault and generally think of things like fistfights, without a law which explains that circumcision is okay under the general law, it could be classified an assault.
So does this mean that a man, a young man or even an older man, could one day sue his parents for having been circumcised?
That's a difficult question, and an action like that hasn't been brought in Australia. And one of the goals of this process is that issues like that hopefully won't have to make it to court. We can settle the law before it comes to that stage.
All right, Penny, if I can turn to you now, how popular is circumcision these days?
Okay, about 12% of baby boys are currently circumcised, as distinct from perhaps the peak of circumcision, which was in the 1950s, when 90% of baby boys were circumcised. It was almost done automatically in those days.
And what were the reasons why circumcision was so very popular back then?
I think it was considered to be healthier in those days, and it became just a popular trend. Of course, we now know that that's not medically so.
So there are no health benefits for circumcision?
There would be minor health benefits for circumcision, but in the medical fraternity, we believe that they're actually vastly outweighed by the potential complications or risks.
And what are they?
Okay, well, with circumcision, the risks are of infection and bleeding. You can actually get damage to the penis. If it's done under a general anaesthetic, there's risk of anaesthetic. Basically, about up to 5% of boys who are circumcised have to have some further procedure because of the circumcision, when in fact it's an unnecessary medical procedure.
Do you advise your patients to have their children circumcised or not?
Never. Never. No, and most mothers these days actually don't even ask the question. If they do ask the question, I will tell them there are some minor health benefits. Baby boys with recurrent urinary tract infections may benefit from a circumcision, but it's one of those things I feel you shouldn't do unless there's a problem. We don't take people's appendix out unless they have a problem with them. Don't take the end of a poor little baby boy's penis off unless there's a problem.
Warwick, back to you now. You don't think that this is turning things into a nanny state by bringing up a paper like this?
I enjoy the baby reference. I guess our major concern is making sure that people who do circumcise know they're protected by the law if they do perform the procedure, or at least are certain how the law applies to them.
All right, well, it's a fascinating topic, but, you know, I just worry about that whole nanny state thing. Warwick Marshall, thanks very much for your time this morning, and Dr. Penny Adams, good to see you.
Thanks, Lisa.